To quote H.P. Lovecraft, "The oldest and strongest emotion of mankind is fear, and the oldest and strongest kind of fear is fear of the unknown." I think this quote is a great introduction to the video I have for y'all today. We are going to be covering the history and the ultimate downfall of the urban legend, or I guess creepypasta invention of Slender Man. And with that being said, welcome to the Corner of Curiosity. I'm your host, Jazz. I cover everything from true crime, cults, conspiracies, and the strange corners of history and horror that keep us up at night. With that being said, let's get into it. Slender Man is a fictional supernatural character that originated as a creepypasta internet meme created by Something Awful former user Nudson in 2009. The thread was a Photoshop contest in which users were challenged to create paranormal images. He depicted a thin, unnatural, tall humanoid with a featureless white head and face, wearing a black suit. Although previous entries has consisted solely of photographs, Surge supplemented his submission with snatches of text, supposedly from witnesses, describing the abductions of the group of children and giving the character the same name, the Slender Man. The quote under the first photo read, "We didn't want to go. We didn't want to kill them, but its persistent silence and outstretched arms horrified and comforted us at the same time." 1983, photographer unknown, presumed dead. The quote under the second photograph read, "One of two recovered photographs from the Sting City Library blaze, notable for being taken the day which 14 children vanished and for what is referred to as the Slender Man. Deformities cited as film defects by officials. Fire at library occurred 1 week later. Actual photograph confiscated as evidence." And I think especially in the creepypasta era, like prime creepypasta, people writing these really dark and disturbing stories on the internet, this was a prime time for a character like Slender Man to emerge. I remember he used to be so big on like YouTube and people making, I think I mentioned it in the script, but there is a video game with Slender Man in it, and I remember watching videos of people playing it. And it was just such a prime time for these type of characters. Like, I don't know if that would be the same now, because in 2025, you can do anything, so I feel like it wouldn't be as believable. But I vividly remember being like 11, 12 years old, thinking that Slender Man was kind of real. Like, I was like, whoa, like, somebody's gonna catch this dude. Like, he's kind of scary. So I think it's just fun to look back on these like crazy creepypasta and crazy creations that people think of. Like, I don't even know how this man thought of Slender Man and like came up with the backstory and lore for him. I think it's really cool when people have that ability to make such a backstory and such a really, really in-depth creature that becomes so known in internet culture. To get back to Slender Man and what his common features and characteristics are as a creature, stories of Slender Man commonly feature his stalking, abducting, and traumatizing people, particularly children. Slender Man has become a pop culture icon, although he is not confined to a single narrative but appears in many disparate works of fiction, typically composed online. He appears to be wearing a dark suit and tie. The Slender Man is often associated with the forest and/or abducted locations and has ability to teleport. Proximity to the Slender Man is often said to trigger a slender sickness, a rapid onset of paranoia, nightmares, and delusions accompanied by nosebleeds. Early stories featuring him target children or young adults. Some featured young adults driven insane or influenced to act on his behalf. Others included the idea that investigating the Slender Man will draw his attention. The web series Marble Hornets established the idea of proxies, who were humans who fell under the Slender Man's influence. Initially depicted as simple, violently insane, they came to be portrayed as puppets of the Slender Man. Fiction relating to Slender Man encompassed many media, including literature, art, and video series such as Marble Hornets, as we mentioned, where he's known as the Operator. The character has appeared in the video game Slender: The 8 Pages, which came out in 2012, which that is the one I vividly remember seeing people playing online all the time, and its successor Slender: The Arrival in 2013, as well as inspiring the Enderman in Minecraft, which I did not know that Enderman was inspired by Slender Man. You wouldn't think, but I have a little bit of experience with Minecraft, so I played it like one time when I was 10, and I didn't like it because it was too much work. But if we're going to talk about Slender Man, we sadly have to talk about the major crime that is associated with Slender Man as a character, and I ultimately think this was the character's downfall because it influenced two girls to try to murder their best friend, and we're going to get into that now. I have a lot of details on this crime because I think it's important to discuss this, because especially with everything going on the internet now, of children being influenced even more than back in like 2012, 2014 when Slender Man was in its prime. It can get even crazier now with things like TikTok and even weirder YouTube shorts. Just weird things on the internet nowadays. I'm even more scared than versus when I was a kid with these things that kids can be influenced by, because it's so accessible and easily available if you have a cell phone. So I think it is important to talk about these kind of cases, to just know that this stuff happens, and if you aren't watching your children watching what they are watching online. On May 31st, 2014, in Waukesha, Wisconsin, Anise Weir and Morgan Geyser lured their friend Peyton Littner into a wooded area of a local park and stabbed her 19 times to appease the fictional supernatural character and prove that he was real. All 3 girls were 12 years old at the time. Littner survived the attack after being found by a cyclist, later stating the attack inspired her to pursue a career in medicine. And I'll insert some clips of her talking about her experience. I think she just interviewed with like ABC or one of those news companies recently and talked about like what this experience, like just what it did to her as a person and things like that. So I will definitely insert that clip.
Do you feel like you're a survivor?
Yeah, I shouldn't be alive. I really shouldn't after what happened.
For the first time, Peyton Lichtner is talking about that day 5 years ago.
I just wanted to go on a walk, and I didn't think much of it. It's just a walk. It's in Waukesha. Like, what bad stuff happens in Waukesha, Wisconsin?
Peyton was stabbed 19 times and left for dead by her own friends.
When questioned later by authorities, they reportedly claimed, meaning Anise and Morgan, claimed that they wished to commit a murder as the first step to becoming proxies for Slender Man, having read about it online. They also stated that they were afraid that Slender Man would kill their families if they did not commit the murder. After the perpetrators left the scene, the victim crawled out of the woods to a roadway. These girls being 12 years old, it does not surprise me that I think they were just trying to get out of it and trying to do the best that they could to seem like they were and like lie about it. And if I can find some like interrogation clips or interview clips from them, I think they are available online. It's just the internet is very scary on how especially children can get so wrapped up in these characters and things that, especially like kids like this who may even be susceptible to these things. You don't know if like mental health delusions or anything run in their family's history. I'm not really sure about that, but like, I don't know. But you can't just blame everything on violent things online. Like, you have to make sure that the kid is held accountable, which is why I believe they were tried as an adult, because you're 12 years old saying that a fictional character made you do this. You knew exactly what you were doing. On August 1st, 2014, she was found incompetent to stand trial, and her prosecution was suspended until her condition improved. On December 19th, 2014, the judge ruled that both girls were competent to stand trial. In August 2015, the presiding judge ruled that the girls would be tried as adults. They were tried separately. On August 21st, 2017, one of the girls, now 15, pleaded guilty to being a party to attempted second-degree homicide, but claimed that she was not responsible for her actions on grounds of insanity. Although prosecutors alleged that she knew what she was doing was wrong, the jury determined that she was mentally ill during the attack. On December 21st, Waukesha County Circuit Judge Michael Boren sentenced Anise Weir, then 16 years old, to be hospitalized for 25 years from the date of the crime, which would keep her institutionalized until age 37. And I think some recent news has come out about it was Morgan or Anise, but one of them was released or something. I don't know. I saw a news clip about it. I'll insert it here about like what is going on, because there have been some updates about this case and these 2 girls involved. In a statement to the media on June 4th, 2014, Eric Knudsen said, "I'm deeply saddened by the tragedy in Wisconsin, and my heart goes out to the families of those affected by this terrible act." He stated he would not be giving interviews on the matter. On September 25th, 2017, it was reported that Morgan Geyser, then 15, had agreed to plead guilty to attempting to commit first-degree homicide, an arrangement that would allow her to avoid jail time. On February 1st, 2018, the Associated Press reported that Geyser had been sentenced to 40 years in the Wisconsin mental hospital, the maximum sentence allowed. So I can't remember which one it was, but like I said, there was a major update about the case recently, because I was just Googling it like to get some more information about it, and there was some more information. But with this type of case happening, obviously people are going to be very, very scared of this character, Slender Man, terrorizing or making kids do other things, because people really like to use fictional characters and things, especially if one person has committed a violent act with it. They tried to just dismiss the whole thing and kind of get the thing like kind of disappeared from like society as a whole because they think it's going to influence other people. So the stabbing in Waukesha spawned a nationwide moral panic over Slender Man across the United States. Parents nationwide became worried about the potential dangers that stories about Slender Man might pose to their children's safety. Russell Jack, the police chief of Waukesha, warned that the Slender Man stabbing, quote, should be a wake-up call for all parents, and that internet is full of dark and wicked things. Media outlets publicized Jack's warning. Obviously I agree there is really bad things on the internet that kids should not see, but it's also your responsibility as a parent to monitor what your child is seeing. And yes, that is easier said than done nowadays, especially if you just give your kid an iPhone and expect them to know not to look on any bad thing that's on the internet. But I feel like it's your job as a parent to monitor what your kid is watching 24/7. Like, obviously you can't expect your child to have that big of a moral compass or that big of a understanding about the internet, because the internet is changing rapidly anyway. So if you're a parent and you're not keeping up to date like what is going on, then obviously your kid can fall into bad things on the internet, which we can see in this story. Also, these major cases like with Peyton, it just inspired other children, because you think that, oh, well, Slender Man talked to them, maybe he's going to talk to me, and then they feed into even more delusions about this. So there are some more here are some more examples of Slender Man used as a kind of scapegoat for these major crimes, but ultimately these people were found, after hearing the story of Peyton. An unidentified woman from Cincinnati, Ohio, told a TV reporter in June 2014 that her 13-year-old daughter had attacked her with a knife and had written fiction, some involving Slender Man, who the mother said motivated the attack. September 4th, 2014, a 14-year-old girl in Port Richey, Florida, alleged set her family's house on fire while her mother and 9-year-old brother were inside. Police reported that the teenager had been writing online stories about Slender Man, as well as other, I don't know how to pronounce it, so it's like a other manga series they were writing about. And the sheriff from that area said the girl had visited the website that contains a lot of Slender Man information and stories. It would be safe to say that there's a connection to that. But those are some examples of other people using Slender Man as a reason to set violence. And I honestly think that was the downfall of people being interested in the character, because people are going to just say he's a bad influence on children, he's inspiring children to do violent things and commit violent acts. So obviously people are going to want him to not be around children and not be such a core focus on the internet. After the Waukesha stabbing and negative media attention that altered the Slender Man's legend's image, the Waukesha stabbing and the negative media attention altered the Slender Man's legend image and online community surrounding it. Meanwhile, by around the same time, the Slender Man character had lost much of its original popularity. Most of the original blogs that had once been devoted to Slender Man either shut down completely or became less popular. Slender Man's presence in mainstream popular culture also contributed to a decline in how frightening he seemed to many people. Yeah, and I think once you start putting creepypasta and more obscure things online, if they start going into the mainstream, obviously they're going to get overhyped and overused, so people are not going to think he's as scary. The late 2010s also saw an increase in benevolent portrayals of Slender Man, with many depictions of him being from this period portraying him as an anti-hero who protects victimized children from bullies, although often violent means. Some portrayals of Slender Man from the late 2010s, he has a daughter named Skinny Sally, who is portrayed as a young girl covered in cuts and bruises. Slender Man sometimes is portrayed carrying Skinny Sally on his shoulders protectively. A professor from Utah State University kind of observed that after the stabbing that happened, people were now trying to make Slender Man seem like a more positive influence, because he saw him being pictured with his quote-unquote daughter, Skinny Sally, and trying to kind of counter-react him being such a violent figure. And now he's on the other end of actually protecting people who are being victimized and being bullied by other people online. So I think it was just people trying to fix Slender Man's image overall online, because they wanted to keep him in the online zeitgeist. But once we talk about that, we have to talk about is Slender Man just a creepypasta, or is he more of folklore legend? Could he be seen as more than just something online? Could he be an actual mythical creature like Bigfoot or zombies or things like that? Could he be seen as that? Several scholars argued that, despite being a fictional work with an identifiable origin point, the Slender Man represents a form of digital folklore. Ciara Chess argues that Slender Man exemplifies the similarities between traditional folklore and the open-source ethos of the internet, and that, unlike those traditional monsters such as vampires and werewolves, the fact that Slender Man's lore can be tracked and offers a powerful insight in how myth and folklore form. Chess identifies 3 aspects of Slender Man's lore that tie into folklore, collectively, meaning that it is created by collective rather than a single individual, variability, and performance, which I think is just saying that, especially right now on the internet, yes, one person can create a type of creepypasta or a type of world around a creature, but I feel like once it gets spread out into the mainstream and people start, writing off of that character and getting it more into like society as a whole, that is when it can be considered folklore. Like, you can have one-off characters, but until it is like really solidified in society and has its place outside of the world it was created in, then it could be more of like a folklore image. Like, you got to think of like Bigfoot. Bigfoot has different variations across the country. Like, there's different versions of Bigfoot in Florida versus a more northeastern part of the world versus more west coast. Like, there's different versions of him. And I think you can say the same for Slender Man. Like, the quote unquote sightings of Slender Man are placed in different areas in the world and in the country. And also, people online have taken him and written him in different scenarios, which you could also think is like different areas from the world he was created in, if that makes sense. That's kind of how I think of it. So I would consider Slender Man maybe like a second generation of folklore, like not anything compared to Bigfoot, because obviously Bigfoot has like quote unquote photographic evidence, but Slender Man has quote unquote photographic evidence as well, and even more when he became more popular, people started putting him in other things. So I would consider him folklore, maybe not in like the literal sense, but like internet folklore I think would be a better word for him. But now we have to talk about like the success of Slender Man, because there are many characters from creepypastas and things that haven't seen as mainstream success as Slender Man did. So media scholar and folklorist, which I didn't even know that was a thing, Andrew Peck attributes the success of Slender Man to its highly collaborative nature. Because the character and its motives shrouded in mystery, users can easily adapt existing Slender Man tropes and imagery to create new stories. The ability for users to tap into the ideas of others while also supplying their own helped inspire the collaborative culture that arose surrounding Slender Man. Instead of privileging the choices of certain creators, as this collaborative culture informally locates ownership of the creature across the community. In these respects, Slender Man is similar to campfire stories or urban legends, and the character's success comes from enabling both social interaction and personal acts of creative expression. Like I was saying, once you have a character that can be written into other things by other people besides the original creator, I think that's when it becomes the most impactful, because different people across different, generations, ages, places can take that character and create their own kind of lore to it, which even adds more lore to the original character. You guys know I like to end these videos on what these characters can symbolize overall. I've done it in every single version of these type of videos. I like to include like, overall, what does this creature or character symbolize in society as a whole? Like, what can we really learn from it? And ultimately, I think Slender Man symbolizes the fear of the unknown, particularly within the digital age, especially right now, representing our anxieties from online anonymity, surveillance, and the blurred lines between reality and fiction, which that can be very, very true, especially nowadays. Like, nothing you put online is anonymous, even if you think it is. And Slender Man being such an anonymous figure, like, you don't really know what his face looks like. Physical being is kind of like a suit already, so it's like he is so unknown that he is known, if that makes sense in a way. Like, he is very, like, you know what Slender Man is, but you don't know who he is. And I think that's what people want from the internet nowadays. They want to post whatever they want. They want to share whatever they want anonymously, but it's never going to be anonymous because of the data that every little thing on the internet tracks from us. He embodies the idea of looming unknowable threat in the digital world and taps into primal fears of strangers, particularly for children, and serves as a modern take on cautionary tales. Slender Man is the representation of our own intellectual inadequacy. No matter how much we learn about the universe, there is no point where we can fully comprehend a force outside of nature so completely alien as that of Slender Man. Our reliance on overcoming fear through understanding has left us vulnerable for fearing the unexplainable. Yeah, so I think that's another thing of like people want to learn so much about the world and about us as beings in general, but you can never learn enough, and there's always going to be something new popping up that you won't fully understand. And I think Slender Man does kind of embody that of like, yes, we can learn as much as we can, but you can't learn everything. So you can't learn everything about the world no matter how much we try to learn, and there's no way that we can fully comprehend everything in the world anyway, if that makes sense. I feel like sometimes these scary stories and these creepypastas can tell us more about ourselves than like normal everyday media, like from books or TV or movies and things. Like the more original works of people that aren't really, boxed in a certain way or has so many criteria because it is mainstream media and it has to pass all these different, producers and executives and things like that. It can just be a purest form from the original creator. Teach us more about ourselves overall. But yeah, that is my episode about Slender Man. It was kind of all over the place. I'm trying to get better at scripting my videos. That's not my really strongest skill. I feel like producing, like recording and editing, are like my more stronger skills when it comes to YouTube. So I'm trying to get the flow of it and see like how I want these videos to be framed. But yeah, let me know what you think of this video in the comments below. Also, comment below what other like creepypasta or internet legends you'd want to see me cover. I kind of have an idea in the back of my head, but I'd obviously want to cover things that you guys are interested in. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. Let me know what you think in the comments below, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye!